me show you guys the new oh, wait a minute. There it is. Well, what you guys are looking at is a 1973 wheel horse Ranger 700. And guys, just let me tell you, look how cute this thing is. Now guys, I don't know how well the camera's gonna pick up the scale of this thing, but I have an idea. How about me for scale? I mean, this thing is just tiny. Now, I'm not a little feller, but still, I couldn't imagine cutting my grass with this. Now, I don't know the exact sales pitch from Wheel Horse on why they ever built this thing, but I'm gonna make some assumptions. I'm guessing they're probably trying to chase down the affordable line of mowers. And as you guys can tell, this has got a vertical shaft on it, not the old horizontal like we're used to seeing on the bigger ones. And when I tell you this thing is cheap, this thing was cheap. There are no lights on it, no headlights, no tail lights. They didn't even bother putting reflectors on this thing. And this was your dash panel. You had your idle adjustment and an on-off switch for the coil. It is a 3-speed with reverse. They were nice enough to do that. But this thing has got no electronics on it. It is the recoil edition. Now, from everything I'm gathered, this should be a Tecumseh 7-horsepower engine. I think it's called a V70 is what model it is. And I have never worked on one. But that's gonna change today because we're gonna see if we can get this thing running. Now, a little story on it. I bought this off a fella not too far from me. I paid 50 bucks for it the way it sits. It did come with a 30-inch deck. It's sitting outside. Now, he had bought it off an old farmer. It had been sitting, he didn't even know how long, but judging by the moss growing on it and the spider webs and everything else, I'm gonna guess and say probably 10 or 15 years. I could be way wrong, I don't know. I don't want to lie to you guys, but that's just a safe bet. Something else I think that's cool on this, and I'm sure they did it for price, the hood and the fenders. This is all one body panel here. You can see the mounting bolts. That is all fiberglass. The frame and the footwells is all steel. And I guess that's what's so shocking to me is this thing, brace yourselves, is 50 years old. And I can't find any broken pieces of fiberglass on this thing. Maybe it's not fiberglass, maybe it's plastic. You guys will have to tell me in the comments. But the body is in really good shape. I mean, even the stickers, you can still read them. The only damage I've seen is the shift knob here. And the guy I bought it off of, he took credit for that. He said he broke it whenever he was hauling it home. Now, besides the usual flat tires, you guys know we're used to dealing with that. That won't be a problem. I'm sure the carb is going to need to be cleaned. My plan for this, I think for now, we're going to start with trying to get it running, make sure that it runs, and then we'll worry about trying to drive it. I don't know, let's get into it, guys. I'm pretty excited for this one. Oh, that's a good sign. Feels like it's actually got compression. Well, I think this is it here, guys, unless that's just the fill port. I guess we'll find out. By the looks of it, it's been leaking oil, but that's all right. An oil leak is rust prevention. Don't smell bad. It's definitely black, but I don't smell any gas in it. Speaking of gas, well, bone dry. Well, let's go ahead and pull this spark plug out. Make sure there's no surprises in the cylinder. And then we'll see if we got spark. Huh, looks good. Some rust built up on the plug, but it's a Tecumseh plug. Let's pull it over and make sure there's no water in there. Plug tester. All right, you guys watch that. Tell me if we get spark. That is no. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on there. Guys, I followed the one wire coming out of the engine. It's got to be for the coil. I pulled about 3 layers of crusty electrical tape off and I found this. Connection's not terrible, but the way this coil should work, ignition coil, unless this has points, I really don't know. I guess we'll find out, but if I unplug this, then the coil should fire. So in theory, if the coil's good and it's an issue with the wiring, this thing should run until I ground this out. All right, see what happens now. Still nothing. All right, that tells us there's probably a problem with this coil or points, whatever we're gonna find under this cover. Probably a good idea to go and pull this off anyway to make sure there's not a mouse house in there. So let me figure out what we need to do to take this off. It looks like these 3 bolts on this shroud are also cylinder head bolts. So cross your fingers that these don't break. Ooh, I don't know if I like that, guys. So that one didn't feel bad. Someone in one of the last videos told me that PB Blaster is much better at creeping into rust than WD-40. Now luckily that parts truck for my last video, the 5-speed swap, I found this can in there and the damn thing's almost full. Let's get some of that on there, working that in. All right, see if we can get these other head bolts moving. All right. Don't know if I like that. Okay, we're good. Now I think this shroud should just come off there. All right, not terrible. Well, I was hoping that we were gonna have the coil sticking right about here on the block. We'd be able to access it, but it looks like this style here is either, it's gotta be inside of the flywheel. So let's see if we can't get this flywheel popped off there and have a look at that coil. You guys will have to explain this one to me. 3/4 is too small, a 19's too small, 21's too big, and 13/16 is too big. Do these have some kind of special socket or something for these flywheel nuts? Well, that is a 12.75. It slipped on there. Got the washer and the nut. Starter cup. I think I better have a cold snack and do some research before I go tearing this thing up. I'm just going to go at it the same way I would with any flywheel. Put a pry bar under it and smack it with a hammer. Oh, there it is. What is under the flywheel? Okay, all right. Yeah, no, I have no idea what I'm looking at. So it does have a coil, but I think this is called the solid state ignition. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Ah, there's some points. Had to look this up, guys. Bear with me. I don't mess with points that often, and I'm sure you old timers are laughing at me. And I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this, but right here is our points. And they really don't look that bad. They actually look pretty shiny and clean, but I think I am gonna go ahead and clean them up, and we're gonna reset the points gap. We'll set to that 20 thou gap, and maybe that'll fix our problem. Let's see if we can rotate this thing over. How well you guys will be able to see this, but I'm trying to get the high spot on this crank to stop right at the thickest point. Well, I don't know where my 20 is, but here's a 19. A little snug on the 19. I think those are fine, guys. I don't think they're out of adjustment at all. While I was in here, I looked everything over and I can't see anything else wrong. I'm gonna throw the flywheel back on it and we'll try it. Let's throw this stuff back together real quick. All right, save some time. I'm just gonna use a drill to spin this thing over. Keep an eye down here, guys. We'll see if it's got spark. Oh, did you guys see that? I saw it slid up there for a second. We're on the compression stroke. Let's try this again. Oh. Awesome. Nothing terrible. Guys, the throttle cable's all the way up, and on this, that means the choke's on. If the choke's on, that means the choke's close the carb off. Nothing's gonna get in if we spray it. So I'm just gonna spray these cables with some PB Blaster and see if we can't get it broke free. Because right now, oh, there it goes. Nice. See, this thing's just itching to run, guys. All right. Let's see if we can get this thing to run for. I'm not gonna be able to do much better than that, guys. Having to do the old hand spraying into the carb while pull starting. I can't, I'm not fast enough to keep it going. So you guys know where this is heading. We're going to see if that carb works. Probably not. Which will end up with us pulling it, cleaning it, and doing all that stuff. So that's what we're gonna do next. Nope, it's ruined. We'll have to make a new one of those. Oh yeah, look at that goodness. Oh man, that is nasty looking. Woo, if you guys could smell this. That is some varnished gas. Ah, there it is. I'm not sure what purpose that serves. Well guys, I found my first problem. I was pulling the parts out of the parts washer and I noticed that this float was holding water. It was starting to sink. Normally I would smear some RTV on it and hope for the best, but I actually went at this one with a little bit of solder and my soldering iron. So we're gonna dunk this in some water and hopefully I actually managed to make this thing watertight again. Now if I did it right, if I put this under the water, we shouldn't see any bubbles. I think it's all right, guys. I don't see no bubbles. Air rises to the top. That's right where that crack was, so I think we're good. Let's put this carb back together. Well, I dug through my stash. I can't find anything perfect. And I think this one right here is gonna do fine. It's bigger than the opening, but it's gonna seal on this face here, so we lucked out. Got some new fuel line here. Might as well go ahead and push this on while we still got access. Oh, there we go. And you know we can't do fuel line without using some zip tie fuel line clamps. Get you guys fired up. Flush cuts. You guys got to get some of these. I think that's going to take care of the fuel system for now. There is no shut-off valve on this. I would throw one in line if I had one. I am out right now, so oh well. Let's pick some of this mess up here and throw some gas in the tank and see if we can get this thing to run now. Hey, I just want to give you guys an update real quick on the Chevy. I did, in fact, get a dry shaft for it. Get down here, I'll show it to you. Real nice aluminum one. So I ended up finding one at a junkyard that was a little bit longer than I needed. Took it to a friend of mine. He cut about 2 or 3 inches off of it, and I had to put a conversion U-joint in it, and it fit perfect. I've got about 40 miles on it now. Everything's working good. I mean, it's crazy how much different a vehicle is to drive with a manual over the automatic. So just want to show you guys, it is together. I have been putting some miles on it, and I've got a whole bunch of parts coming for this thing. So make sure you guys stay tuned for a future episode on this truck. Well, after taking this thing apart for the 3rd time, cleaning it again, putting it back together, making sure everything is right and the way it's supposed to be, I still could not get that engine to run on this. The only thing I can think, the only explanation I can think of is, it's not going to show up very well on camera. This throttle shaft O-ring seems to be pretty much gone, and I think it's just got a massive vacuum leak, because whenever I take the carb off the intake, or pull the spark plug out. Both were bone dry. And I mean, I pull started that thing 100 times. I don't know, I lost count. But the bowl was full of fuel. So I know the carb was getting fuel, it just wasn't making it from the bowl to the engine. So vacuum leak is what I'm going with. I don't want to spend any more time on this thing. I did try to take it apart to see if I could find an O-ring for it and strip the screw out, bent the throttle blade. So I pretty much decided I'm going to go ahead and try to find a new carb. Now fortunately, with the magic of editing and Amazon, I've already got a new carb. This one is not exact, as you can see. The choke lever is a little bit different, the fuel inlet's different, but for the most part, it's pretty close. This is one of those cheapo Chinese kits. It was like 20 bucks. It came with the air filter, fuel filter, spark plug, all that stuff. I've had pretty decent luck with these cheap carbs. I mean, you just got to have low expectations going into it. So we're going to see if we can get this rigged up. The throttle linkage bracket, there's going to be an interference fit with this. So it's going to be some figuring stuff out for a minute, but I'll bring you guys back when I got it on there. Okay, sit rep. We got the new carb put on. You guys are probably going to yell at me, but the only way I could make it work was to bypass the governor. I tried, the throttle linkage rods wouldn't bend just right. It's off just enough to where it wouldn't work. So I bypassed the governor. I've got the throttle cable ran straight to the butterfly on the carb. And the other thing is the way this factory one's set up, wide open all the way up is your choke. Now that won't work with this because this has got the old hand choke on it. So I bent the lever down out of the way so the choke is still functional. And I mean, let's be honest, it's a pull start unit. You're not gonna be pull starting it from the seat anyway. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna go ahead and get the air filter put in it and get the fuel line hooked back up and hopefully start it. I don't know how old this air filter is, but I think this will definitely be an upgrade. So, goodbye. Oh yeah. Man, this thing runs great. Had to dial in the Chinese carburetor a little bit and it really started idling good. I mean, it runs perfect. Man, I'm so happy to hear this thing run. Well, I wanted to raise this thing up off the ground and get a good look at the underside of it. I am surprised to see it does have a drive belt on it. I've just been going through and lubing everything up, trying to figure out how all this stuff works. This does have a manual style clutch to engage it. I've got that freed up and moving, and what it looks to me like, it just engages another tensioner on the actual drive pulley here that would go to the deck. So everything seems to be moving freely. Clutch pedal's working right, and I'm assuming the clutch is kind of like the brake on this because there is no brake lever. And then for your height adjustment, it's literally, that one's still kind of sticky. The height adjustment is literally just a matter of, it raises and lowers the front of the deck, which I think is funny. Pretty simple, but you know, if it works. So I think we're gonna go and lower this thing back down on the ground. I also did get the kill switch working, so if this thing runs away on us, I can shut it down. And I put a throttle return spring on this just for now to keep the throttle at idle if I've got the idle set all the way down. So let's put this back on the ground and see if we can ride it. Man, this thing cleaned up good. For being 50 years old, I can't believe how good it shines up. Ever since I brought this thing home, I've just been itching to take the pressure washer to it to see what it looked like cleaned up, and I'm glad I did. So we got that little Tecumseh running, rear end's working, all that stuff seems to be working fine. Tires are junk, all of them. I tried putting air in the front ones and they were coming out quicker. It was coming out quicker than I was putting it in. So I guess the big question is, what do we do with it? And I think I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. I've got a couple ideas in mind and I want you guys to tell me what you think. We could throw it right back on the marketplace and send it down the road, let somebody else mess with it, do a poor man's restoration on it. I don't think it would be that bad on this. Maybe do a resto mod, as I call it, take the old underpowered heavy Tecumseh off, put something a little bit newer and lighter on it, a little bit easier to start. Or option 3, and you purists are gonna be mad at me for saying this, I think it'd be cool to make a race mower out of it. It wouldn't be that bad. Take the little Tecumseh off, put a side shaft 212, live axle swap on the back. I think it'd be fun. So I'll let you guys tell me what you think we should do with it. Put down in the comments what you think. Speaking of that, we've got a lot of new people to the channel. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch the 5-speed swap video, I highly recommend you do. I had a lot of fun with that one and I think you guys would like it. Also, there are a lot of you that are watching the videos who aren't subscribing to my channel, which is fine. But if you aren't, I recommend you do, because I've got a lot of good stuff coming. I actually just brought home 2 more projects the other day. So it's all about waiting on parts to show up and getting everything pieced together so I can start the builds on them. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you on the next one.